Hello?
Hey, big boy.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Thank you.
Yes. Hello?
Can you hear me? Thank you.
Who's...
It's Danny, you idiot.
What?
It's Danny, you idiot.
Oh. Danny, well, why am I getting some person talking? I don't understand this. Danny, it's like a woman's voice. I don't understand this. It's like a recording or
It's
something.
the only way I can talk to you.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind.
Without a microphone.
Gotcha.
Let's do phone calls, bitch.
Welcome to the Mouthpiece. Today, we're going to talk about my week in L.A. as I'm calling in from L.A. We're also going to do our phone call segment along with a special interview with back-to-back Dealer's Choice champion, Mr. Adam Friedman. So buckle up and stay ready and stay tuned. Episode 17 of the Mouthpiece is on deck. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Mouthpiece. I'm here in L.A. in my hotel room, and I am recording this, episode 16, year one. We're going to talk about what's been going on in my life here in California. So far, it's been a pretty good week. I flew in last Thursday, and I'm recording this segment. Let's see, today is Friday, so I've been here 8 days, and things have gone pretty well. I played on the stream last week in shots kind of heard around the world. I was crushing the game for like 35,000 and had a brain fart and lost a 90,000 chip pot with aces, which was the easiest check fold in history. But I had a brain fart, and I got a little cocky, and I started to... I told myself check fold the flop on an 8, 9, 10 flop with two aces. I was just sure that the flop was all over him, and I decided to call 5,000, and then I was just going to just check fold the turn. A king came on the turn, and I knew that Garrett knew I had aces or kings, and I tried to turn my aces into a bluff, and I know he would have folded even a set because he knew I had aces or kings. That's why when I did it, he goes just one time because he was so sure I had three kings. So that was a mistake I made. But after it happened, I bought in 10,000 more, and I said, well, that's probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I was getting a little cocky, and I was playing really good, and I've said it before, cards will make you, egos will break you, and I let my ego get in the way. But I put my head down, and I ended up winning 40,000 after being stuck 10 after losing a 90K pot. It's so funny. On the internet, they love to make fun of you, call you how bad you are, how poorly I played the hand, but they don't talk about the 50,000 straight I won, including about 30,000 I robbed with nothing. Because that's what the Twitter trolls do. They all want to say bad things about you, and they never want to talk about the good things that happen. So overall on the stream last Friday, I played, I thought, an amazing session. One hand I played bad. It cost me an extra 35,000. But you learn from your mistakes, and that worked out well to book a nice win to start off Friday. Then we went into Saturday, and I took the day off, if I'm not mistaken. Then Sunday, what did I do on Sunday? Oh, Jesus, let me think if I can remember. Shit, I forgot. I got it all documented. It's going to be on the video vlog when I get home, called The Trip to L.A. But I ended up playing a little home game tournament in which I won that for $2,500, and that made me win back-to-back tournaments for the first time since 2005, if I'm not mistaken, or 2006 Yes, it's 2006. Last time I won back-to-back tournaments, it was for $1,500,000. This one was for $2,700 and $2,400. But hey, you got to start somewhere. I then played on Thursday or Wednesday. What was it? Yeah, Wednesday. I played in this the Quantum Million Guarantee tournament, where for like $160 you can win $250,000 for first. I did not sleep well. I was tired. I didn't really want to play. Phil took half of me, insisting that I play. And I said, I don't want to play, Phil. I got a bad feeling, and I got a good feeling you're going to win it. And I played terrible because I was tired. And I jumped into the 5-5 game on the Live at the Bike stream, 5-5 with a 50 ante. And I booked a 4,600 win in that game. I thought I played great on that game, too. So that made up for my kind of pissing 3,700 in the street, which half was mine, half was Phil's. So that put me a little bit of a win. Then came, which was Thursday. Yes, I think it was Thursday. That was yesterday, right? Yeah, yesterday morning, in which I was extremely upset. Actually, it was Wednesday morning. I made a mistake. I apologize. Wednesday morning, in which a guy organized the game. They were starting a 2-400 mixed game. He had been telling me for 3 days, organizing the game. And I asked him about 12:30 at night is there a seat available for Brandon Cantu if he comes down. The person who organized the game said yes, but be there at 10:30 sharp. We're drawing for seats. There are so many people that we're going to probably have 2 games. So I get down to the room at 10:30, and it's me, Ralph, and one other guy, Martin, a very great friend, a very good person. Martin Schaefer was in the starting the game, and so Ralph says we're going to start 1-2, and I was kind of like, well, you never said anything about 100, 200. You said 2-400 for the last 3 days. So he says, well, he goes, a couple of people canceled, and but David, Pham, and George insist that they only want to play 2-4, and they're going to come down when we start the 2-4 game. So I played for about 2 hours in the 100-200 game. Lost every hand. It was like 4,500 loser. And at which time the person who organized the game said that George and David, Pham were coming down to get ready to start the 2-4 game. So it was like a Rhett Porter, Matt, who I think is like the best player in L.A., and Johnny Chan. Not the greatest game to start a 3-handed with. So I'm sitting there, and David Pham comes down and takes Matt's seat in the 100-200 game. Now, he had insisted we didn't play any 100-2. You only want to play 2-4. And so it kind of bothered me a little bit. And Matt's just sitting there. He gave up his seat. And so I kind of felt bad. I said, okay, Matt, I'll come over and start the game with you. And so I come over, and he said that, okay, George is locking up the seat. He'll be right over. So we picked the games. I wasn't that comfortable with the games that they picked, but I made it doable. And I'm the type of person, I give my word. I'm going to be down to play 2-400. Sometimes you just have to start a shitty game, and then the game fills up with some good spots, and the game gets better. So I start the game. We're playing 4-handed, and then George comes over, and he takes my seat in the 100-200 game. Now I'm fucking going crazy. I'm like, wait a minute. So we start this game, 2-400, expecting David, Pham, and George to come over and play 2-400 with us, and they take mine and Matt's seat. And I'm, like, steaming beyond, like, imagination, like typical L.A. scumbags that are all out for themselves. They didn't like the 2-4 game, so they took the 100-200. See, now the 100-200 game's great, and I'm in this dog shit 2-4 game. And then, lo and behold, I don't even know how John Hennigan even found this game. It was, like, not up anywhere. He walks in. They hadn't had a 2-4 game at the bike in months, according to what I heard. And so now I'm playing five-handed. I mean, you can't make this up. Me, Johnny Chan, Rhett Porter, Matt, who I think is the best player in L.A., and John Hennigan. This is the worst five-handed game in history. I lose like 2 pots for another 5,500 and 5,400. I cashed out like 125. I picked up my chips and quit, and I left. And I was very upset. And I texted the person that put the game together and said, "Listen, I'm not mad at you at all." I said, "It's not really your fault, even though you did say there was never going to be, it was going to be 2-4. You never brought up 1-2." And when I was talking about angle shooting and scumbags and fucking people in LA because that are all out for themselves and nobody else, I was kind of talking about, I don't give a shit. I was talking about David Pham, and this is the second time I've called him this because, and listen, I get along with the guy and everything, but you don't sit there and say, and the person who put the game together showed me his text that he was playing only 2-4 and not 1-2, and then you don't like the 2-4 game, and then you take my seat, and same with the guy George so these guys took the 100, 200 seats. So I was going pretty crazy about it. I was really upset. It's so funny. So I proceed to put in this group text, and I wasn't even thinking about who was in the group text. I just saw that there was somebody had texted in the group text, so I had just kind of like was venting, and it was so funny. So I texted into the group text. I wrote, "Today's lesson is on the English dictionary." And I wrote, "Lowlife equals someone whose word is worthless and whose only care in the world is about themselves." Then I wrote, "Word 2 equals self-absorbed. A person whose entire well-being revolves around the benefits of oneself, whose word is like the dump I took last night, and who cares only for what's best for them." And then I wrote, number 3 word, society equals 75% of words 1 and 2 combined, also mostly relevant to poker players who live in the LA area. Kind of a dig at how they're angle shooting motherfuckers. And then I wrote number 4, Californian equals a dumpster fire of hypocrites whose only thoughts are how to make themselves better. English lessons are over. Have a nice day. Well, lo and behold, Randall Emmett, I guess, was in this group text, and he's thinking I'm saying this and talking shit about him, when I was just trying to vent myself about what just happened in the game downstairs. And he starts texting Phil and Brandon, "Mike's dead to me, this piece of shit," what he just said in his text. And it just goes to show you, if he's thinking it's about him, well, maybe he's not the greatest person in the world. And maybe he could be a low life or whatever. How else would you think it's about you? I had no idea he was even on the text, to be honest with you. So that kind of happened there. It was pretty funny. So anyways, last night, the night after this happened, this was Wednesday night, I went and visited my cousin Greg and my cousin Rusty in the Valley. I haven't seen Rusty in about 6 years, and I've only seen him like once in like 20. So it was really great to catch up with him and to see my cousin who's moving to Woodland Hills on Friday. So being in LA and being able to see them was great. So then that happened Wednesday. Thursday, that was yesterday, I kind of slept and I was extremely tired because I hadn't been sleeping much, and I had to get up early in the morning for a game that didn't even exist, which pissed me the fuck off. And then we went out to dinner, a really nice dinner at Del Rey Steakhouse at around 9:30. And then I kind of went to sleep and got up to play the quarter 50-100 live at the bike, a big game that we put together, which was a real good game today. It was just unfortunate that I wasn't playing my best the first 3 hours. I was really struggling to focus, and if you haven't seen the stream of last Friday's game or this Friday at Live at the Bike, I think you should check it out. But I had played another hand bad where I gave away a couple grand, and I looked up, and the next thing I'm 21,000 loser, and I'm just like, man, how am I 21,000 loser? It just doesn't seem like I played many hands. but I knew I was off my game, and I wasn't off by a lot, but I was off a little bit. And I just said, no matter what happens, I'm not putting another bad chip in. And I thought I played fantastic the last 2 hours and ended up losing 1,500, in which Phil had half of me. So it was pretty much a break-even day. So overall, it's been a great week so far. I'm ahead, let's see, I won 39 minus plus 2,500 for winning that little home game tournament. And overall, but Phil had half of me at 39. I won like 19, 21. I'm about 13,000 in my pocket winner for the week, and that's heading into tomorrow's LA Legends of Poker at the Bike, Tuesday ones, 5K buy-in. I have a really, really, really strong feeling I'm going to do something great in this tournament. Now, I don't know if I'm going to win. I don't want to just call my shot and say it because I've never won a WPT, but I am 100% positive I'm going to cash and go deep. I'm feeling a final table. It would be nice if I'm right. My gut is usually right on these things, but that's occasionally wrong. But lately, ever since I've been out of pain, it seems like my inner gut has been right about almost everything, including not wanting to play that tournament on Tuesday and not just everything that's just right just tells me, it's just my gut's been right. I was really pissed off at Phil Hellmuth, who final tabled the event, which I said I thought he was going to win, and he made a 5-way deal when he was playing with Phil and 4 people that probably haven't played for more than $200 in their whole life. He had such a big edge, and I don't know what made him make a deal. I was mad at him for I don't even know how many hours straight. But hey, he won 95,000, and he also won like another 100 in a cash game earlier in the week. So he's been doing well. I've been doing well, and that's what's been going on here. So I have a video vlog set up for my trip to LA when I get back, and hopefully it'll be after I win the Legends tournament. And you guys will be able to check in to my video vlog at YouTube/Mike the Mouth. And that's what's been going on. We'll be right back on the Mouthpiece.
The Mouthpiece.
If you'd like to take part in our phone call segment, you can give us a call at 702-329-0480. And if you're a snowflake or a pussy and you don't want to talk to me, you can email me at mouthpiecepodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow me at the Mouth Matusow on Twitter for times that our call-in segment will be live.
Without further ado, we are going to take some phone calls right now. So let's light up the phone lines and see what people have to say today.
Hey, what's up, Mike? Anthony from Clinton, North Carolina. I love the podcast. You're doing a great job. Awesome. You're entertaining. I love your guests. Love your insight. I have a question about PLO split. I know you're a great split game player, so I just wanted to bounce some questions off of you. Could you talk about starting hand range and PLO high-low starting hand ranges, what you should look for, what you should play, what you should definitely not play? Any insight will be appreciated. Love the show. Keep it up. Peace.
Okay, so it's a good question. So hand ranges of PLO 8 or better is a lot different than regular 8 or better. In PLO 8 or better, ace, king, queen, 6, ace, king, queen, 7, any ace, king, queen goes way up in value because if it flops like a king, you're able to bomb the pot and really put people to the test with people who have like a dry ace deuce. I'm not the type of person that will ever call a raise with any ace deuce, 9, 10, and PLO 8. or ace, deuce, 8, and those are really bad hands in PL08, where in regular 08, they're good hands. I don't want to give away too much because I am starting my own teaching site coming out real shortly on 8 or better. But I will say that it's real important in starting hands to, when you have ace, deuce, you must have like ace, deuce, 3, ace, deuce, 4, and a paint card. Ace, deuce, 3, king is a massive hand. 1, 2, 4, queen with the ace suited. My advice is just stay away from the ace 3, 5, 10s, the ace 4, 5 jacks. Those are all really bad hands and trap hands. So you can come in there with a lot of marginal hands, ones that you can hit flops with that won't get you in trouble. And what a lot of people don't understand is in PL08 is a lot of it it's important to have a two-way hand. You can't find yourself drawing for half the pot, or you're just going to die. So that's my advice to you on that. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it.
Hey, Mike, big fan from Tennessee. Just wanted to call in and say that I talked to Alan Kessler over at Cherokee last week at the circuit event, and I was just curious, do you ever play any of the circuit events? And wanted to say that I really enjoyed the video Markup Police. Appreciate it. Good luck in the future, Mike.
Hey, thank you for the question. No, I don't really play any circuit events. I don't, because of my injury, which whenever I fly, I'm in a lot of pain. Like even when I landed last Thursday, I was in pain from when I landed until I woke up. Because of my injury with the pressure of the cabin, it expands and contracts in my injury in my spinal cord. So whenever I fly, I'm in a lot of pain. So that's why I don't really travel to any of the circuit events. And at my kind of age, I don't really like to play that many tournaments and travel. I like playing the LAPC, the Legends that I'm down here for, and the Bay 101 and the World Series. That's pretty much all I play. But I appreciate the question, and keep listening to the Mouthpiece, and tell all your friends to listen. Thank you so much.
Hey, Mr. Mike the Mouth, you're my biggest fan I've ever had in poker. Love your, not a very good poker player. I never played anything more than $50 at the casino, but like watching you play. And I have a question. Why do you let Phil Hellmuth talk crap about you so much? Because it's really annoying, and he's trying to shut you down at the bike, telling you talk too much. I think you should just tell him that he should shut his mouth and quit trying to control you so much. Just tell him to shut up, because it's really irritating.
Well, I appreciate the question. You're not the only one that says that. A lot of people are getting upset that Phil keeps putting me down at the table and the thing is you have to understand about Phil is, Phil loves me. We're really good friends. And, he can't help himself. He doesn't literally put me down and think to himself, I'm putting Mike down today to try and make myself look better, or that's just the way he is. You accept your friends for what they say and what they do. And I accept Phil for that. And it's kind of funny. We were talking the other day, I was telling him how much I just hate people who brag about what they win or what they have or who they hang out with. And so Phil goes, well, you must hate me. I go, Phil, I've known you 20 years. If I didn't know you, I would say I can't stand the way you are when you act like that. But there's one of Phil, and we've been friends for so long, and you accept him because I know he's got a heart of gold and a good person. And so I deal with Phil that way. I could never have another friend that is like Phil. I could because I just would go crazy and despise it. But, you have to just understand that Phil doesn't mean anything by it, and he's a good person. So you take it with a grain of salt and you move on. But I appreciate the question, and thanks for calling into the Mouthpiece. Talk soon.
Hey, Mike. This is Tom. Just calling from Boston. Calling to say keep up the good work. Love listening to the Mouthpiece. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Well, I appreciate it. And tell all your friends to keep tuning into the Mouthpiece. And also, if you want some great video vlogs and you haven't seen any of my videos, go to YouTube/Mike the Mouth and some great videos there. And I appreciate you listening and for being a loyal customer. Thank you so much.
Mike, where's my steak, man? Come on, make it happen. I need a steak. 60-40.
I'm sorry, I don't steak anyone because I need to get money myself and pay everybody what I owe them before I can help anybody else out. But hey, hope you find yourself a steak somewhere later.
Hey, Mike. I was wondering what the best way to play pocket jacks is. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Pocket jacks are probably the most misplayed hand in all of No Limit Hold'em. Back in 2002, when I was like 2-1 chip lead on the field for the World Poker Tour Championship title, and I had like $2 million, and the next guy had $1 million. I literally got stacked with jacks 3 times and finished 14th. I picked up jacks against 5s. The guy hit a set. The same guy who doubled up moved in again on me with 5s, and he hit a set. And then when I built the chips back up, I flat called with jacks, and the flop came like 10-10-4, and Lee Salem moved in, and I snap called him, and he had ace-king and ace on the turn. So that was pretty shitty. And I said after that I'd never go broke with jacks in a poker tournament, and I don't think I have. I think maybe once since, if that. My advice is when somebody raises under the gun or under the gun +1, to always flat. If it's a button raise, it's kind of a hand I like to all 3-bet there, and of course if he 4-bets, then I'll kind of try and stare him down and get a read off him. But most of the time, I kind of like flat jacks and see how the flop comes. And so many people re-raise with them and play big pots with them. And even 2 nights ago, when Phil was almost down to the final table, guy opened under the gun and just for 1 raise. And Phil had 2 jacks, and just looked at him, and he just had a bad feeling the way the guy was playing with his chips, and he just folded for 1 raise. And Phil was right; the guy had 2 kings. So a lot of No Limit Hold'em is reading your opponent, despite what all the math and model geniuses think they know. If you can't read, you ain't gonna win. So. That's my thought process on that. Just try and keep the pot small with them and try not to go broke with them. Pre-flop, that's for sure. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. And thanks for listening to The Mouthpiece.
The Mouthpiece.
This is Mike Sexton, and you're listening to The Mouthpiece.
Welcome to The Mouthpiece. Today's special guest, Mr. Adam Friedman. Adam, are you there?
I'm doing great today, pal. How are you?
Good, buddy. What's going on?
It's the off-season, World Series is left over. Just going to get ready to get back in the swing of things here, a little bit of poker. But in the meantime, just enjoying life right now.
Sounds good, man. Sounds really good. Let's talk a little bit about how your summer went. As you know, I had Sean Deeb on a couple weeks ago, and we talked about your guys' head-up match a little bit. And we also talked about what an accomplishment it was to win the Dealer's Choice, not once, but 2 years in a row. What Sean said was, people don't give you enough credit, and that you're very underrated as a poker player. Now, with that in mind, I'll agree. I will probably say I've never given you the credit you deserve, because I see you do so many wacky stuff. I fall into that category sometimes of what Ted Forrest once told me is everybody rates their A game against your F game, and that's all they remember. And I've fallen into that category, and I do apologize because you deserve the credit that you deserve. So, with that in mind, let's talk about you defending your title in that tournament and how things went.
Well, things went great for me, obviously.
We know they went great.
Yeah.
But can you just dissect any where there few? Was it smooth sailing to the final table? Was there a lot of ups and downs? I ask you this for a reason, because I know you're a lot like me. You're a very emotional person, and when things start to go south, you sometimes unravel. How did it just give me a run through what was going through your head pretty much the whole way?
Sure. We'll start we'll start with a brief summary on day one, go more in detail from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a strategy I more or less laid out, literally since this was the 5th year of the DOS choice.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 2015 was the first year. And early on, I realized quickly there are some games where you just have massive free roll opportunities where your chips have no risk. You don't have no risk whatsoever. Games like stud high low no qualifier, Big O, believe it or not, and the split pot draw games, I think are major advantages when you draw really good when you get really good table draws early on.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing, and you have so many opportunities where you're just free rolling from the first or second draw on, or you've just got people just stone hammered locked in Big O because they'll stick it all in, with an ace deuce and like a one pair hand.
Yeah.
Where I remember I had a hand against Anthony Zeno on day one of the Big O, where I raised, I want to say it was ace deuce, queen, 4 with an ace high suit. It's a very premium hand in the game.
Yeah.
He defends. The flop goes 6-5-4. I think with my flush draw. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he flopped the nut low, still have queens, which really isn't really much of that flop.
In Big O, that's not, shouldn't be that good a flop for you. If you hit your flush draw, then it's a big flop for you. But like it was just a 4-5-6. That's not that great a flop. But go ahead.
Yeah. So he actually leads into me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he leads pot right into me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I call.
Correct.
And the turn paired, I think the 6 or the top of the bottom card. I'm honestly drawing a blank which it was. He bets pot again, and I folded right away. And my only thought was like this: there's just no doubt he's got ace deuce. But I'm just I could be just dead to the other half, and I could be putting all this money in draw dead. And PLO8, in PLO8, when you have one card less, all right, you're not, in all likelihood you're not going to be folding.
Yeah, I'm never folding that in PLO8, and I'm probably always folding it where you did. So that's good to hear.
The majority of the people in this tournament won't even consider folding. Like I played so much Big O out in LA when we put in the mix in the last 2-3 years. Like folding that didn't even dawn on me to put another penny in that pot.
And it shouldn't.
People forget calling. A lot of people will raise.
Right, but we're not going to teach anybody Big O or the games that we have huge edges in, because we're just not why we still have these edges.
No,
but it's not even close. Yeah,
exactly. So hands like that was one of the two hands that really stood out for me on day one.
Mm-hmm.
But we started with 60,000, and if I remember right, I think I ended the day with probably a little over 100,000. I didn't. I maybe a little less than double my starting stack, which is fine when you're playing these 10K events.
Yeah.
Just day 2 is when you got to start making hands, and I drew an unbelievable table draw on day 2 to start with. There were 2 players I know didn't play any of the limit games. Jacob Dahl is at my table. I literally looked at Jake, and we didn't have to say a word. Looking at the table. Like we literally like you choose 2 of the games, I'll choose like 2 other very similar games.
Yeah.
And before you know, these two of the people who had a lot of chips, they were out by the end of the first level on day 2. Jake ran really bad; he couldn't get a penny off them. Whereas I took a lot of chips early on from those guys, where I just had to just shoot huge free rolls and just kept getting there.
Yeah.
Especially in Matusow and Matusow. But then eventually, as the day wore on, We get down to the final 25 or 30. I'm probably a little bit below average at this point. And then, in this tournament, I'm never trying. I mean, again, I don't mind playing any of the 20 games. It doesn't bother me whatsoever.
Right.
Ideally, I don't want to play a game where potentially you can get it all in one. You can get all the money in immediately when a hand just going to play itself, like a pot limit Omaha or a pot limit triple draw.
Right.
So there was a hand where I draw a blank. The guy who won the 10K triple draw this year, he raised under the gun in PLO, and I flatted like decent aces on the button when he made 9,000, and then Adam Owens in the big blind, he makes it 37,000 to go. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Wow.
We're going to get it all in PLO. So Luke Schwartz, he tanked forever under the gun and folded. He gets back to me. I potted to like 120 something. He thinks about it and calls, and the flop goes queen 7-7, and my last 70,000 gets in the middle, and he just has a pair of queens, and I turned aces full. That might have been the one time I showed truly any emotion in the tournament. I actually clapped, and I can't think the last time I clapped at any point, because at this point I'm thinking, man, I really want to go back to back at this point.
Well,
I still think it was really that realistic yet. There were still about 25, 30 people at this point.
I think that we now know why Adam Owen had a very poor World Series of Poker. That's kind of a telltale sign. I mean, like when you repot, I mean it's aces every time, and he probably called you with a ace, king, queen.
It was king, queen, 10-9 or king, queen, jack 9 or something, and the flop was queen 7-7.
So like, how can he lose another chip? I mean, you have aces 100%, and I mean 70,000 at this point is probably a good 4 or 5 big bets and limit, right?
If I had to remember, I want to say it could have been anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe 3 to 6. But it was probably in the 3 to 5 range, if I would have guessed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point now, I'm up to like 400,000. I'm like, all right, just stay cool. Don't do anything stupid. You'll just, if you can grind that a little bit, get up to $500,000 to be in great shape. And before I know it, when we got down to about 3 tables, I don't remember any specific pots. I was up to about 5. I went from about 400 about a little over 5, and then I just go on a major heater basically to end the day. I beat Claude, who I think is one of the best players. Without question, one of the best players I've ever played with.
Wow.
And a couple of really big pots.
Claude, you want to always play split games with. He's very weak in the split games, and he's very good in everything else. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. It's for some, it's kind of like me. I struggle. I can't play short-handed PLO for some reason. My brain just doesn't click to it. And for some reason, Claude's brain doesn't click in the split games. I don't know why, especially in the 08 and the PLO 8 and the Big O's and stuff like that. But other than that, he is just a fantastic player. And I agree with you on with everything you said about Claude. So
yeah. So again, back to like I said.
And for people that don't know who we're talking about, it's Chris Klodnicki we're talking about, because we're saying Claude. Yeah. We're saying Claude, and people that are listening to the broadcast, need to know we're talking about Chris Klodnicki. If you don't know who he is, he's a fantastic all-around poker player. So go ahead.
Yes, he is. So eventually, I mean, I coolered him in a few pots. One was a real big stud high hand, and then to end the night, I think we got down to the final 11, and I was the chip leader at this point to end the night, and I'm just doing everything not to get overexcited, because I mean, in these tournaments, I mean, you can be the chip leader at 11 to go out and 8th place or something. And it's like what, and then you're just like, oh my God, what just happened? It can be standard in these, and that's fine.
Yeah,
and as long as the hands play themselves, you don't overplay or try to run the table over, because unlike a lot of the no limit home events, you see and the majority of the 10Ks, not always, but the final 10, 12 players, especially in a tournament like this, where you're going to be forced probably to play all 20 games, there just aren't going to be any bad players.
No.
People just are so good. I mean, I thought I had a very difficult final table. it's very possible it's the second most. It might be the second hardest final table I've ever had to play.
Well,
at the World Series or in general.
I give Matt Glantz credit. He told me the 5 people to go, and he was short chipped. He said, and he picked pot limit triple draw, thinking the 2 guys with big chips would do something stupid and he'd move up. And he ended up, they both grenaded, and he moved. I don't know if he grenaded to you or Sean, whoever he lost chips to, but and he ends up moving up to third and picking up 53,000 more. And what a great strategy that was to move up. I guess he didn't feel like, he was in real good chip position to possibly win, and moving up in the money was in that spot was his thought process, and it worked to perfection. That he told me all about.
I thought it was a very smart idea because, again, if one person's dealt the 2, 3, 4, 7, someone else has dealt a pretty similar hand, it's hard for a lot of chips not to get in the middle at that point.
Right.
If you want to play a little more of a trap, but I think there are merits to having some sort of a trapping game involved. At that point.
In pot limit triple draw, I think it's all about pot control and trapping. I mean, I'm not a master at it, but I picked up how to play the game right away with a lot of help from Mike Wattell, who, as you know, is probably the most underrated poker player in the world.
He's definitely one of the most underrated. It's just because he's real quiet, and he's not maybe news. He's not considered news.
What's great? It's.
He's not under the age of 30, so people don't really know anything about him.
Yeah, and so he gave me a lot of tips about hands to play, what to play in position, how to control the pot. So many people just think it's like limit, and they'll do 3, 4, 7. They think they always have to repot it. They don't. They could just call. Guy draws 2, you draw 1. They don't think you're drawing smooth or anything, and you can really.
They think in a best case scenario you might have an 8-6-5 draw or something in a best case scenario. Right,
like you have 8-6-5-3 or something, or 8-6-5-4. So it's I learned a lot of tricks in that game. I don't want to give out too many of them, but I learned it a couple of years ago with the help of and in the big bet mix. I finished, I think, 11th and 13th in back-to-back years. I kind of grenaded it this year because I jumped in it right after I had busted out of the PLO tournament, 45th, in just a horrible way where I misclicked the amount to put in because, they had the one set of chips where the orange 5Ks and the 25Ks had a red band on and they almost looked identical.
I remember, you're right.
Okay, so I remember these set of chips a year before where I misclicked. So I had one 25,000 chip, and I was trying to sell it to the guy next to me, and he was in a hand because I was worried I might put it in. And, I don't even want to talk about what happened there, but that's what ends up happening. I end up with a min raise to a guy who limped under the gun. And then he repots it. He's got aces. And now I have to call. I got 7, 8, 9, jack. And I grinded this nub forever. And there went, I was down to, I had 250K. And I had, we're at 10 and 20,000, or 5 and 10,000 blinds, which is an eternity. Or, I'm sorry, 10 and 20. So I was limping for 20. What 250K is an eternity. Pot limit Omaha. I could fold 27 hands in a row and still have 160,000. Now you get it in 2 in a row and you're chip leader. You know how pot limit Omaha works. So
of course,
I was pretty upset at myself what happened there, and then I jumped to the big bet mix and I grenaded 2 tournaments. That one and the one that I cared the most about, the 10K pot limit Omaha 8. Those are the only 2 I played bad all summer, and other than that, I thought I played well. But, going back to, I wanted to bring up a point for people that don't know, for the listeners out there that don't understand what you're talking about when you say, high-low regular. Now, the reason why I bring this up is the first year they brought the dealer's choice in. Maybe it was the second year. It was the first year that Rob won. So yeah, that was like I think
he
it was
won the 1500 the first year.
Okay, so that year, right? This is like the second level. I've told this story before, but I don't know if I've told this to my listeners. But you talk about high-low regular, you just have them dead, right? So I limped with deuce, 4, 6, and the guy who picked the game, he was the bring in with the king, and everybody folded but him. Now remember, you got to understand this. This guy picked the game. Okay, so for all you out there, I'm going to try and explain what kind of happened, and you could kind of understand what happened to me here. So he has a king. I hit a 3, and he hits a king. And he literally raised me 8 times. Okay.
Wow, that's special.
Special, right? On the next,
I mean, unless you make 3 pair. I mean, he obviously has 3 kings. Right. But I guess the only way he can scoop is if he makes a king low and you make 3 pair.
Well, you think obviously he has 3 kings, but
right.
So I then pair my deuces on the next street, right? And he raises me like 6 more times. We put 6 more big bets in on this street.
I am curious, what was his 5th street card?
His hand is now King 3. Now on the next street, I catch a 9, and he catches a 4, and he 6 bets me all in. So my whole entire stack on level 1 or level 2 of Super Juicy Tournament has now been put in the middle of this. And on the river, I hit a 9 low and a pair of deuces, and he proceeds to roll out of the hole a ace, 3, 4, 5, 7 with a pair of kings. And that's how I got it.
Holy crap.
Now, I tell this story, people that don't know, is any means the low automatically gets half. I was, I think, 97.2% to get at least half in this hand on when all the money went in on 4 and 5. Maybe 98.
That would sound about right.
Yeah, I think it was 97.5. I ran these numbers. And so we talk about having them hummed up and dead. Well, there you go. I thought you'd get a kick out of that one. That was my first trip into the dealer's choice, first year 1500. But anyways, I wanted to explain the game a little to people and why it's such a good game to pick. I agree with you. I pick it about 50% of the time, and I pick Big O or PLO 8 the rest of the time. But one of the mistakes I made when I finished 5th in the 10K dealer's choice 3 years ago. God, time flies. It seems like yesterday I thought
that was 2016.
No, it was 2016. You won it in 17 and 8. You won it in 18.
No,
it was 2017.
I won 18, 19.
Yeah, the year Racner won. The year Racner won.
Yeah,
3 years ago.
Yeah, Racner won in 2007.
Yeah, so I finished 5th in that tournament, and I was I was at 1.1.5 bigs, and it took me 5 hours, and I was a chip leader. And nobody had gone broke yet, though. So the structure had caught up to the tournament, and I made the big mistake of when I went to the chip lead, which was probably only about 7 big bets, but everybody else had like 3 or 4. I should have gone to limit hold'em or no limit hold'em. It was a mistake I made, and because nobody had any chips anymore. I didn't want to. Everybody just stayed. Everybody was picking the PLO.
Most conservative game not to go broke.
Right. And anyway, so that's there's a lot of,
and that's one of the things that's one of the things I figured out a couple of years ago. Actually, I mean, you need to know your chip stack at all times compared to everybody else's chip stack at your table, and it doesn't matter. Not just at the end, but in the beginning and middle of these tournaments. Who are there specific players you're trying to get rid of? Let's say maybe on day one or whatever, so you can hopefully get one or two more cupcakes, relatively speaking, at your table. You want to be able to pick games where maybe you want to keep one or two people slightly alive, and you're still going to be chipping up at the same time. And yet other times, you're like, all right, let's get a more gambling game to get this person out of here.
Right.
And
that's
it was
good.
so it was pretty funny. So when we got to three-handed this year, we'll skip a few parts, but I'll get that after. But yeah, so you always want to be able to. You have to know you're at all times. When chip stack in a lot of ways can dictate the games you're picking. At the same, not just necessarily what your opponents might not be as experienced or as good in as some of their better games, but you need to be able to. Certain games play much better when you're the chip leader, and certain games play much better when you're on the nub. Right. And in between, it's maybe slightly dependent on your best game, and sometimes on your opponent's worst games. Right. And you've got to be thinking about all these things all the time. And this is the first year I noticed, much more so than other years, other top players were starting to do the same thing, because the first few years of this tournament, I don't recall people doing this at all. And I think I've improved every year in poker, which I think is very difficult to do. You can get really satisfied where you're at. Right. And the quality of play that you've seen in this tournament has gotten much better since 2015.
Yeah.
Some of the better players are starting to pick games more correctly. At least how I think they should be picked more correctly. In certain situations.
It's one of the. It's probably. I mean, it's such a prestigious tournament because you're forced to play everybody's best game at a lot, and they also. It's. I mean, it means a lot that you could play all the games. I mean, I never thought that anybody that didn't play all the games could ever win that tournament, but I've seen people get close that just are big bet players that pick No Limit and PLO, and they get they're winning some big PLO pots, and they've gotten close, But I think you really need to be able to play all the games to win that tournament. And every time I've entered it,
I think it's very difficult for a big bet player who's sub-average in the limit in order to win that tournament, because the majority of the players, I think, are much better in the limit than they are in the no limit. Even the people who maybe fans think these guys are no limit superstars. For example, in my opinion, for example, Sean Deeb is an excellent no limit hold'em player. I think he's better in limit than he is in no limit. In limit games.
I think he is too.
And I mean,
but I think he's great and all. I mean, I like the way he plays no limit hold'em. I think he plays few, but we talked about this when he was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, is why he's able to play more hands than most people, and he works at it, and he looks to exploit people's weaknesses. And I used to do the same. I used to play a lot of hands, but in this day and age where people don't like to fold, it's not quite as easy to play as many hands. Especially when you get up there in age like me. So I've kind of changed my approach a little bit, but I like the way I've been playing lately, and hopefully I'm going to work on that. But I agree with you with what you're saying about Sean there. I think he plays the limit games better. And
like I said, it's not even just him. Like the person who I thought was the best person I played in that tournament specifically was Nick Schulman, who is one of the best players I think I've ever played with, period. Well, and people think of him as, back in the day, he came from a no limit hold'em tournament background. He won Foxwoods 15 years ago, or whatever, however many years it was ago now.
Well,
he won all these no limit tournaments.
He's become.
He's better limit than he's no limit.
Yeah, he's become a great all around player. He plays the big game in Bobby's room every day. So, but I agree with you. But you know what? After him commentating, I think a lot on these big buy-in tournaments, I think he got the itch to jump in there and start playing these big buy and no limits, and he's had a lot of success recently, and it doesn't shock me because he was a no limit hold'em player before he was a mixed game player, where people think I was a no limit hold'em player, but I was a mixed game player. No, I shouldn't say that. I was a limit hold'em player, then became a no limit hold'em tournament player, but I learned all the mixed games from before I became a really good no limit hold'em tournament player. But I realize now what one thing that Helmuth's been telling me for the last 5 years that I didn't really listen to is these guys don't play better than I do, and I realize that now. And I'm going to talk some other time about it, but the adjustments I've made in no limit to where I truly believe if I put the work in, within the next year, I'm going to be one of the best no-limit players in the world again. And that's a big thing to say, knowing how great people are. But I still have the feel, the sense, and I'm starting to pull the trigger, which is very important. So let's go back to where you were talking about three-hand, and we don't need to talk about me at all. Let's talk a little bit about what happened there.
Well, yeah, so when we got to the final table, there were a couple of other shorts. There are a couple short stacks. I mean, let's see, it was Dave Moskowitz, who you know very well, and
he's a great player, by the way.
He is, and nobody knows. And again, people think he might be some amateur. Well, if he's an amateur, 99.5% of pros should dream of being as good as this guy.
He's really good.
I play catch with him all the time in LA. He's one of the nicest, very generous human beings you'll ever meet.
And for people out there who don't know who Dave Moskowitz is, he actually runs the Hawaiian Gardens Casino in LA.
Yeah, out in Los Angeles. Yeah,
and
he's a terrific player. Much better human being.
Yes, agree.
I enjoy 100%. Playing with him every time I get when him and I get to go out to dinner. I enjoy getting to hear a lot of his stories. Pretty much basically a Renaissance type of guy.
Right.
The type of person a lot of people we should all try to strive to be.
Where did he finish in that? Where did he finish in the tournament?
So Michael McKenna went out in 5th place, and him and Sean played a massive pot limit triple draw pot, where Michael had a deuce 3-4-7 draw and decided to go with it against Sean's made 8-6 hand, and McKenna missed out 2 draws. So then David, and at this point, Lance had David outchipped by a little bit, not by too much, but it was noticeable enough to where, he had to push the action a little bit more. So eventually, David basically potted from under the gun four-handed with double suited 10s, and he was short, and I don't blame him. I woke up with 2 kings in the big blind, and the king, I don't remember what two other cards were, but the kings held against him, and they were 3-handed. So at this point,
in what game was that?
That was pot limit Omaha, where I busted
Go
David.
Ahead. All right.
So at this point, I want to say Sean's got probably about 60% to about 2/3 of the chips.
Forget the chips. All I know is when it was head up, you guys had 175 big blinds in the no limit, and in the pot limit games, and you guys had like 80 big bets in a limit, and I'm like, these guys are going to play there forever, and
which is great.
And
it's
the next
fun,
thing, I forgot, but I know I have them in one of my vlogs of me driving around your guys' table and I forgot which one it was, but I know we put.
It was the 1500 PLO because I showed it to a couple friends.
Right. And I was like chugging around, and I'm like, you guys are going to play forever. And then I go back. That's right when I got knocked out of the PLO, and I jumped into the big bet mix and grenade. It played like shit, but on my first bullet, and the second bullet I played good. I just ran bad. And I remember them saying, I said, we went on break. I'm gonna go see what's going on, and I go over, and they're like they're interviewing you. I'm like, how the fuck is this over? And I'm like, what the fuck happened? And then I remember you said to me, Oh, wait till you see the write-up, Mike, and don't worry, it's 100% accurate. And I'm thinking, okay, so Sean obviously did something crazy. This should be interesting to see the write-up. And I was a little shocked with the write-up, but, if you, for all the listeners out there, if you listen to Sean Deeb's account of why he went with the hand the way he went with, it made a lot of sense from his point of view. I still disagree, and I told him on the broadcast that I told him there's no way that you're ever playing a big no-limit pot. And he's like, well, that's what he wanted me to think, and that's why I played the hand the way I did, because he wanted me to think that I would never play, you would never play a big pot without it. But I think he was thinking a little bit too in depth there, because I truly believe you would never have played for all your chips in a big no-limit pot with him. But go ahead, tell me what your thought process was when he picked no-limit 8 times in a row.
Right, let me first say, Sean is better at me than Dylan Hold'em.
We know.
I don't deny that.
He's better than both of us.
Deny that. And again, I don't think it's by as big a margin as he thinks it is.
Right.
But it's by a margin I can notice.
Right.
Know?
Of course.
And it wasn't surprising that he won the 25K high roller down in Florida yesterday.
No.
Not the least bit surprising. He's that damn good.
He's good. Great. And I was surprised the type of work that he puts into learning. God, I just imagine how, if I ever put that kind of work into poker, it just always came natural to me. I've run sims on, like, when I get beaten hands, how big a favorite I was, or I run but I don't. These guys run like thousands of sims, hand versus hand. I don't need. I got the basic math in my head. I don't need to run 5 million sims to get it to an exact science, because as well as I know. I mean, math can only get you so far in no limit hold'em. I mean, you got to be.
No, you need eventually. I mean, you eventually got to have some skill. You got to be able to, when you're playing live,
right?
You've got to be able to read much more.
I think so too. Yeah.
So in terms of getting shot, I'll explain the setup which led to this hand, which I think led to Sean's thought process.
Okay.
So, like I said, it goes back to when we started playing three-handed. Sean, and like I said, which I think is an important narrative to the story. So Sean's got me out chipped by probably around close to 2-1 at this point. And Glance has under 10% of the chips. And my thought process was, because Sean's thinking, you know what, I'm probably going to get heads up with Adam, but if I can grind him down a little bit, I'll have a much bigger chip lead heads up against him.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this out right away. So my thought process was against him. As a result, he said, you know what, I'm going to play super tight pre-flop against him. Any hand I'm in the big blind with, I'm going to be flatting. Mm-hmm. I'm not 3-betting a single hand in my range, including aces. At this point.
Well, it didn't sound like you played too tight. He says you raised the button and he 6x'd you out of position and you called with 7-8 offsuit.
Well,
we'll get to that. Okay, let's go.
So it something happened. I actually had a decent amount of hands, three-handed. I wasn't raising too wide as I normally probably would, three-handed from the button, just because I know Sean's likely to 3-bet me a lot. It just so happened a couple times where he flopped 2 straights on me. One time when I slow played the aces and I went runner to make aces full. And another time where I raised and he 3-bet out of the small blind and I had ace jack. And the flop went ace jack 10 and he told me I had king queen, where he bet flop, he bet turn, and the river paired the ace. He checked and I bet and I barreled pretty huge, and he basically said, this is impossible. I can't fold another straight, but I know you have me beat. You just have me beat every time in a spot. And in those scenarios he's correct, because obviously, I want to make sure I get the heads up, because the difference between second and third place money was about 60,000, which is got at least 6 more 10Ks we get to play during the World Series, basically. So it gives us a few more bullets to fire in there.
Right.
So my thought process was going to be, I'm going to be slow playing all my monsters against him. I'm going to let him hang himself. Hopefully, let him hang himself when I get there. Maybe he'll double and triple barrel certain spots. Now, after listening to his interview, one thing I didn't realize that he was doing was that he started 3-betting me more with more premium hands as opposed to some junk that he had done a few times.
Right.
When I called him down, I had the best hand every time. So my thought process was, when we get heads up, One, if the spot comes right, I will triple barrel because I didn't think he thought I was capable of it. But also, I trust myself playing deep stack poker heads up because I come from a no limit cash game background where, when most people are playing no limit hold'em cash, they come from an online background where they're playing 100 BB deep. Well, back in Columbus, when I first started playing, and then I started playing in LA, I started playing 250, 300, 400 big blinds deep, which is very unusual. So I love playing deep stack no limit hold'em. I haven't played as much no limit cash in recent years.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second and say, okay, so you say you had no problems 3-barreling Sean, but would you,
if the right situation came up, yes,
would you have ever 3-barreled, including go all in for your tournament life in the no limit that deep? That's my question.
If I thought the situation was right, I was prepared to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so
he was right when he felt you were prepared to do that. When he said that on the interview.
But I wasn't going to do that early on because I thought I had to set the situation up right. So the one thing that I made an adjustment when we started playing heads up was the very first time I flopped a big hand against him, every single time I'd flatted him. Not one time when I had an overpair or if I flopped 2-pair or a set or a straight, not one time that I raised. The first time it happens, I'm going to raise him and it's going to get his head spinning like, wow, Adam just doesn't have it here because he hasn't done that once with a big hand. Which is what led him to call me down when I raised pre-flop and he 3-bet. And like I said, I hadn't taken the one adjustment he made, which I listened on your podcast, was that he hadn't been 3-betting weak. And I had not caught on to that point in the heads up match yet.
Right.
Which I don't know. I had not seen that yet coming. I knew eventually he was going to make adjustments because all great players do. However, like I said, counterintuitive, like I said, I had to make 1 or 2 adjustments of my own. So when he 3-bet on the slum, I thought, he's just raising whatever. He's just 3-betting whatever. I'm like, I got 8-7 off. We're sitting over 100 BBs deep, and I'm more than prepared to try to outplay him in certain spots if the situation's right.
Okay.
Well, it just so happens the flop goes 8-7-4, and it was like, wow, I just basically flopped the virtual nuts here, heads up. And when he led, I think 1/3 pot or a little bit less than that. It's the first time I raised the entire time. So it almost looks like I've got some sort of gut shot, very marginal type hand, like because I would never raise an overpair on a scary board with that, which I think he's correct about. Right. So it looks like I got some sort of straight draw more than anything else. So when the 7 hits, the 7 almost doesn't hit any of my range because if I would have flopped second pair on that board, I'm just going to call the flop.
Well, that's what I said. Wait, let me ask you something. Like I think on the podcast I said the 7 hit the turn and the jack hit the river, and he said the jack hit the turn and the 7 hit the river. So which way is it?
No.
He did say that on the podcast, correct?
Yeah, he said that, yeah.
That's what I thought.
The full house.
Right.
Yeah. So the 7 is, he is right. The 7 is not supposed to hit any of my range there, because if I would have had second pair and that's it, who raises second pair there? I mean, nobody does.
Right.
So, yeah, so he's right. The 7's not supposed to hit. I'm supposed to have all sorts of straight draws at this point. I think much more.
You're also supposed to have a pair, right, and a straight draw, right?
I could. But it doesn't look like I can't have much more than that.
Okay, so let's just say that's the thing. Like even if he puts you on 9-10, a straight draw, that gets there on the river. I mean,
it does.
And a pair and a straight draw. I mean, he's got to fold on the turn because he's only got ace high, unless he's given you specifically a 9-6 or a 9-10. And once the jack hits, I mean, he can only beat 9-6. So, this is what I talked to him about, and which is really good because I wanted to get your perspective of the hand because, he got really shredded by everybody, and I even told him I shredded him, and he gave me his opinion of why he played the hand he did and the way he did. And now, hearing from you, it's good to hear. But I still, I did disagree with him. But go ahead. Let's with what.
Yeah. So, and again, also about 2 years ago, I didn't realize this, but my no limit holding game had really gone to crap. Like I didn't even realize this. One of my best friend poker, who used to play a lot of Omaha to better with over the summer, Nick Regenti, the poker world knows him as Biggie. He basically had to reinvent my no limit holding game all over again. Yeah. Especially when playing 10 to 20 big blind stack. I mean, I played that stack just shoot for about a couple years straight, and I didn't even realize it. and that's just where poker is a lot of days. You know, how to play from 10 to 20 big blinds.
Right.
But then he started reteaching me some other stuff that, you know, where the game started trending and how to do certain things in different ways. So, you know, he just reinvigorated my Nona holding game altogether.
Right.
Now, am I at Sean Deeb's level or these guys that play the high rollers? No. But I think if I put a ton of work in, I think one day I could, but it's not a goal of mine.
Me neither.
Because I just don't play a lot of Nona holding tournaments. It doesn't appeal to me as much.
Well, you know, that makes sense of the hand, but he still had to call like 80 to 100 bigs on the river when the jack hits and you moved all in. Did he snap you? Tell me what happened there.
Yeah, so like I said, I raised about 500 something on the flop. I bet 6 and change on the turn, and I want to say he had about 1.5 to 1.7 behind, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was one. I think it was one. The report said I think it was 1,475,000 left on the river. It could have been 1.4
and change.
Somewhere in there. Go ahead.
I think we were playing. If I remember correctly, in terms of no limit, I think we were playing. Come in 25-50. We must have been playing
pretty small.
15-30, I think. I think we were playing 15-30. Like I made it 60, and he made it like 2 1/4 pre-flop.
Well, it's real easy to figure because I remember walking when I came by. You guys in the big bet games, I think you were like 170 big blinds in the big, and I'm thinking, wow, they're going to play forever. But so it probably, I think it might have, that sounds about right. So, how many big blinds? It was on the end. It was still 70 big blinds you had to call.
If we were playing, if it was 15-30, it was if it was 1.5, it was another 50. It was another 50 behind.
Yeah.
So it was but you know, like I said, he followed, and like you said, above all, you know, the one thing above all is in poker, when in doubt, you got to follow your instincts.
Yeah.
And you know what? And he went with this, and you can't fault the guy.
I won't. And that was why I really his interview a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, for people who are listening and haven't heard it, they should check out the podcast. I think it was episode 13. I like when I heard Sean say that people underrate your game, because I've been one of those people that always have too. I know you're a great stud player, but I never really gave you too much credit for anything else, and now I could say I can, you've earned your respect. So and now you go out and win a no limit tournament. Last week,
about a week ago.
We could go for 130,000. So, things are going good from in the Adam Friedman world. Well, Adam, it's been great talking to you. Wonderful interview. Enjoyed the insight of what was going on in your head when you defended your 10K Dealer's Choice Championship. And I wish you the best this year, the rest of the year, and I will talk to you soon.
You got it, Mike. Thanks for having me on once again.
You got it, buddy. Take care. Peace.
Thanks, you too.
The Mouthpiece.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our interview with back-to-back champion of the Dealer's Choice, Mr. Adam Friedman. I hope you got some insights at what was going through his mind during the tournament. And I hope you enjoyed listening to us and to me about what's going on with me here in L.A. So I hope you enjoy episode 16 of The Mouthpiece, and we'll be back next week for another special guest for episode 17 of The Mouthpiece. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Back from L.A. in Las Vegas. Take care.